In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. In today's gospel, Jesus got away from the crowds, took a few trusted friends, and went up a mountain for some silence and prayer. As a result of this, he became transformed. His experience prepared him to endure the things that he would be forced to face. Notice that he did not transform himself. He put himself in a position where transformation could occur. Not in the midst of the busy crowds, but in the quiet of the mountain. Even though we do not know what they said, we can imagine that Moses and Elijah were explaining that Jesus was on the right path. They must have readied him for the moment, in other words, that the world would break his heart, as it does to everyone who lives long enough. You see, Machiavelli was right. He was no fool. He showed us that the way to succeed in this world is not to be good, but to be ruthless, calculating, selfish. We Christians respond to this approach, not that it is incorrect, but that it is to miss the whole point of existence. We do not come here to master the world. We come here to master ourselves, or more exactly, to grow. We Christians therefore choose a different path. As is so often the case, studies show that what we Christians have been doing all along is the right thing to do. Silence, they have discovered, improves mindfulness, promotes self-awareness, stimulates brain cells, relieves stress, helps with information processing, boosts creativity, and aids concentration. Even the Harvard Business Review touts silence as a method of increasing one's sense of control in periods when one feels one has no control. They prescribe a 60-minute routine. Though the Psych Central obliquely refer to mindfulness, they do not overtly mention the spiritual benefits of silence. They present it as a way of being more productive, which is actually part of the problem, spiritually speaking. We live in a society where we must always be managing things, proving ourselves through greater productivity than our neighbors, brandishing our accomplishments. When we lived in a manufacturing economy, we proved ourselves by possessing the best goods. Stereos, cars, refrigerators, toasters, and dryers all demonstrated how successfully we had integrated ourselves into society's expectations. Now that we live in an information economy, we prove ourselves by using that information in ways that are visible. Our opinions, whether they are actually well informed or not, have become precious information, or so we think. Just as the expensive sports car never made its driver a more interesting human being, our opinions are of little value in this regard. Truly interesting people are those who are grounded, honest with themselves about themselves, and who have integrity. Silence is a method of healing our spirits from the damage done by the relentless need to compete, to prove ourselves, to pay our taxes, and to function in the Machiavellian world. Silence helps remove from our minds the veil that hinders us from experiencing God more deeply. It helps to center ourselves, to know ourselves, and that allows us better to pursue the growth that we actually came to earth to do. The growth that will be more important to us on Judgment Day than how many clever things we did in response to notifications on Alexa, or how many opinions we shared with our neighbors that really had nothing to do with our relationships with our neighbors. People cannot even talk about and pray for the Pope and his illness without voicing opinions. I kind of miss the days when people would just show off their new sports car or their Rolex. That was less grating. And the cars are more interesting than the opinions. Anyway, silence also helps reduce worry by centering us in who we actually are, a member of a larger body with a purpose and a home. Those who do not understand this can run rampant, trying to make themselves into little gods, and too often we let them throw us off course. Silence brings us back to what is, to the actual state of reality, to our connectedness. Even those of us living in a quieter area like Brunswick County, we are bombarded by notifications, news, text, and emails, all of which add to the noise of the day. During Lent, people tend to do things like give up chocolate or wine. And I am not convinced that a failure to appreciate wine is our primary spiritual issue. Nor do I believe that such practices help us to understand how less fortunate people live. Voluntary abstention is entirely different from poverty. I therefore want to invite you into a shared Lenten practice, into something that actually has the potential to have a meaningful, transformative effect. I want each of us to spend at least 5 minutes, not Harvard 60, in silence every day. This means spending time unplugged, in quiet, without background music, the news, or a loud dishwasher. Birds are okay, but not required. Just set a timer and sit in silence for 5 minutes. If you want to do more, that's fine, but 5 minutes fulfills all righteousness. If you feel afraid, uncomfortable, antsy, if your mind races, that's fine. Just observe that and let it be. Be aware that we are not those thoughts and feelings. We are the observer of those thoughts. The observer endures. The thoughts do not. The observer can remain calm while the thoughts race about. If silence is uncomfortable for you, that is also okay. People often feel a fear of silence, a fear of being with themselves, of facing themselves. This kind of alienation hinders spiritual growth. Let the observer quietly take note. The same way we might observe the weather. It's windy today. My mind is racing. I feel some fear. I am not the fear. I feel some fear temporarily. Let the silence work. Keep doing this daily throughout Lent. You can take Sundays off if you want. Sunday is a resurrection day in Lent, but not of Lent. In addition to this home practice, we're going to introduce more silence into the service during the 6 weeks of Lent. It's fine to have wooden utensils and purple paraments, but they do not deeply change our experience of the Lenten worship service. Saying, Lord, have mercy, might help set the mood, but for what? For spiritual practice. And silence is just that. It is not a lack of productivity, a glitch, a period when nothing is happening. It is part of the process of unveiling our faces so that we can see both ourselves and God. Like Jesus, we put ourselves in a position where transformation can occur. Silence.